Imagine waking up to find your peaceful backyard pond gone, not drained for maintenance, not emptied with warning, just vanished. The water disappeared. The fish dead. The ecosystem I'd spent years building destroyed. All thanks to my HOA. They didn't ask. They didn't notify me. They just sent in a contractor while I was at work. So I did what any rational homeowner would do. I declared war. This is the story of how my HOA drained my pond and how I made them pay. Legally, financially, publicly, and yes, it ends with their president resigning in shame. I live in a fairly typical suburban neighborhood just outside Austin, Texas. It's one of those HOA-managed communities with neat lawns, cul-de-sacs, and just enough passive-aggressive energy to power a small town. My backyard backs up to a small patch of woods. When I moved in, there was this natural depression in the land that always collected rainwater. So I decided to turn it into a real pond. I went all in, dug it deeper with a rented backhoe, lined it with stone and a rubber membrane, installed a solar-powered filtration system, stocked it with koi, minnows, and lily pads. It became my sanctuary. My daughter named one of the koi Bruce after the shark from Finding Nemo. Every morning I drink my coffee by the pond. Birds, frogs, and even the occasional deer made it their spot. It wasn't just decoration, it was an ecosystem. I even got written permission from the city and a certified pond consultant. I never thought the HOA would care, but apparently they did. 3 years after building the pond, I got a letter. It was from the HOA's Architectural Review Committee. They said my pond was a safety hazard and that it violated the community standards regarding unapproved water features. No prior complaint, no neighbor dispute, just a form letter with a 15-day compliance deadline. I replied politely. I included a copy of the city approval, photos showing the fence that already enclosed the pond, a screenshot of the HOA guidelines, which never once used the word pond. A week later, I got a second letter. This one said if I didn't remove the pond by the end of the month, they would initiate abatement procedures. What does that mean? I had no idea. But I was about to find out. It was a Thursday. I had just finished a long shift. I'm a night shift nurse, and came home around 8:30 a.m. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed tire tracks across my lawn. Then I heard the sound. Water, rushing, gurgling. I ran to the backyard. There were two workers, contractors, standing knee-deep in the pond with a pump. They were draining it, actively. No warning, no consent, just pumping it out into the woods behind my lot. I shouted. They froze. I demanded to know who sent them. They muttered HOA work order and handed me a clipboard. I told them to stop immediately. They refused. So I called the police. Here's where things get interesting. When the officers arrived, I expected a boring property dispute. Instead, the police sided with me. Turns out the HOA never got a city permit to drain the pond, and the contractors didn't even have a license for working with graywater runoff. The officers shut the whole thing down. But it was too late. My pond was already half drained. The koi were flopping. Bruce, the big one, was belly up. I just stood there, fists clenched, heart pounding. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be polite anymore. That same day, I hired a lawyer, a real estate specialist with experience in HOA disputes. I showed her the letters, the photos, the contract violation. She lit up like a Christmas tree. Unauthorized entry, destruction of private property, environmental hazard. You might even have a criminal trespass case. We filed a cease and desist the next morning. Then we sent a formal notice of intent to sue the HOA for damages, environmental destruction, unauthorized access, emotional distress, loss of aquatic life. Yes, that's a real claim. But I wasn't done. Next, I filed a complaint with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Why? Because draining a pond into a public watershed without filtering the water is illegal. The runoff from the pond carried silt, nitrates, and fish waste directly into the stormwater channel behind my lot. It could have contaminated drinking water. I also called the city building department. Turns out the HOA's so-called contractor wasn't even licensed to do drainage work. Within 2 weeks, both the contractor and the HOA were under investigation. Fines started rolling in, And the cherry on top? Local news got wind of it. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a news crew showed up. Not just any crew, NBC Austin. They filmed a segment called Pond Panic, Local HOA Gone Too Far. I gave them everything, emails, letters, video clips. The story ran that night. People went nuts. The HOA Facebook group exploded. Half the neighborhood was outraged. Turns out I wasn't the only one they'd pushed around. Within a week, a petition started circulating. Vote to remove the HOA board president. It needed 60 signatures. It got 140. At the next HOA meeting, yes, I went, we voted, and the motion passed. The president, the treasurer, and the so-called architectural chair were removed. Publicly, loudly, and permanently. Yes, we settled. After months of pressure, the HOA offered me a 5-figure sum. They also issued a public apology. So what did I do with the money? Rebuilt the pond, bigger, deeper, better. Added a full solar-powered aeration system. Planted native trees and a rock waterfall. Installed a 4K wildlife cam and streamed it online. And yes, I named the biggest koi revenge. One last thing. 3 months after the scandal, the former HOA president tried to move out. Problem is, his buyer backed out. Why? Because the house was now publicly associated with the HOA scandal, and the buyer's agent found the NBC story. Poetic justice. I didn't want a war. I just wanted peace. On my own property. But when someone disrespects that peace unprovoked, you fight back with facts, with law, with patience, and sometimes with koi. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me, what would you have done if the HOA drained your pond?